Variety has just dropped a bombshell investigation into Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's.
He's had enough. He wants to clean the monarchy, and it's all now in the hands of the courts. Meghan Markle is in full mode panic along with Harry because they both know what they
What
did.
if the biggest royal controversy of this decade isn't about interviews, scandals, or family drama, but something far more serious? Something that could quietly shake the very foundation of the British monarchy itself. Because right now, a legal case unfolding inside a British courtroom is forcing a question into the spotlight, a question the palace has managed to avoid for years. And this time, it's not staying buried.
Maybe King Charles didn't want to do anything about it given what's going on with Andrew, but in order for William to save the monarchy, he has to deal with the Archie and Lilibet problem.
Just days ago, a shocking case appeared in the British High Court. At first glance, it looked like just another aristocratic inheritance dispute, the kind of story that usually stays within elite circles and never reaches the public eye. But this one is different, because hidden inside this case is a legal issue so powerful it could ripple far beyond one wealthy family and straight into the core of the monarchy. We're talking about £157 million estate, a centuries-old legal system.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
I'm going to quote Tom Bauer by saying, he said, look, we all laughed at Samantha and she was right. And everything she said has come true.
And one question that sounds simple, but is anything but. Who legally counts as an heir in modern Britain? The case centers around a 9-year-old boy. He is biologically related to his parents. There is no dispute about that. He was born through a completely legal surrogacy process. Everything, by today's standards, is normal.
Something is happening right now in the courts, which is incredibly important, and nobody's paying attention to it because this will make history, and not in a good way for Meghan Markle.
And yet, despite all of that, the court is now questioning whether he qualifies to inherit his family's fortune. Not because of doubt, not because of fraud, not because of identity, but because of one single factor: the method of his birth. Take a second and really think about that. A child, fully accepted, fully legal, fully recognized in modern society, is still facing uncertainty because of laws written hundreds of years ago, long before surrogacy even existed. The judge in this case didn't avoid the issue. He addressed it directly. There is legal uncertainty. That's the phrase that changes everything. Not rumors, not media speculation, not online drama, real law. And that's exactly where this story stops being just about one aristocratic family and starts becoming something much bigger. Because this exact principle sits at the very heart of the British monarchy. For more than 300 years, the royal line of succession has followed one strict rule.
Trevor put an article out there that Meghan had a hysterectomy and couldn't have children. And that was a big issue in their relationship. So that says a lot to the fake royal kids right now, because obviously they couldn't have come out of her. So that's something that she obviously is going to have to deal with.
A phrase written into law that has never truly been tested in the modern world. Born of the body. Those 4 words come from the Act of Settlement of 1701, a law designed to protect the legitimacy of the royal bloodline and prevent disputes over who has the right to the throne. No flexibility, no modern interpretation, no exceptions, just a clear, rigid definition. For centuries, every royal birth followed strict procedures. It wasn't just about welcoming a child, it was about confirming legitimacy. Doctors were present, officials witnessed the birth, announcements were signed and displayed publicly, every detail was documented. This wasn't tradition for the sake of tradition, it was constitutional necessity.
She had a lot of health issues and she couldn't have one of her children. So they had to use a surrogate in the United States. Why the United States? Because in the United Kingdom, the children, even though through a surrogate, belong to the surrogate.
When Prince William and Catherine welcomed their children, the entire world saw it unfold in real time. The hospital, the doctors, the official confirmations, the famous steps outside St. Mary's. Everything was clear, everything was transparent, everything left no room for questions. Now, compare that to a very different approach in recent years. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle welcomed their children,
The Marquess of Bath was open and transparent about this. So she is right now going through the legal process because as per the Peerage Act of 1963, that child born in the United States from a surrogate is not entitled to anything, inheritance or anything.
things didn't follow the same pattern. No traditional hospital steps appearance, no publicly signed medical notice displayed in the same way, no detailed verification shared with the public like before. Instead, the process felt private, controlled, different. And again, privacy is completely understandable. Any parent would want to protect that moment. But here's where the issue begins. When you are part of the monarchy, birth is not just a private family event. It's a constitutional event.
Who does he take after? Does he look like anyone?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Everyone says the baby's changed so much over 2 weeks. We're basically sort of monitoring how the changing process happens over this next month, really. But his looks are changing every single day.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Because positions in the line of succession are not symbolic. They are defined by law. And those laws were written in a completely different era. Now, because of this new court case, people are starting to connect the dots in a way they haven't before. If a £157 million inheritance
Meghan Markle has been incredibly quiet about the birth, but mostly the pregnancy of these children. Everything has been shady. The one who's been blabbing and saying crazy things is Prince Harry.
can be questioned because of surrogacy. What happens when the same legal language is applied to the monarchy? That's where things become uncomfortable, because this isn't about personal opinions anymore. It's about consistency in how the law is applied, and whether centuries-old rules still function the same way in a modern world. Reports suggest that Prince William is highly aware of how sensitive these kinds of questions can become, not because of drama, but because the future of the monarchy depends on stability. The monarchy survives on trust, on clarity, on structure. Anything that introduces uncertainty, even indirectly, becomes something that cannot simply be ignored. At the same time, King Charles faces a complicated position, balancing family relationships.
I mean, obviously, when William was born and Harry was born and George and Charlotte and Louis, we got great pictures outside the hospital. I remember, and William and Catherine especially, they made such an effort to show the whole world their new baby. And then when the baby was born, when Archie was born, that was another, in my view, a disaster, because I knew we was not going to get a picture of it. Everybody was hoping we would get pictures.
Public perception and the long-term future of the institution itself. Because history has already shown that unresolved issues don't disappear, they grow, and when they finally surface, they hit harder. Now the difference is that this situation isn't being driven by headlines or speculation, it's being driven by law.
You remember Meghan actually refused to use the hospital that was usually used by royals and refused to use all of the normal medical staff. And there was all of the weirdness over the timing of the birth of Archie.
The Marquess of Bath case has done something very important. It has taken a theoretical issue and turned it into a real legal question being examined in court. A father is now standing before a judge asking for his own child to be recognized within a system that was never designed for modern realities. That alone says everything. Now, imagine scaling that exact situation to an institution that has existed for over 1,000 years. That's why this moment matters, because it forces a conversation that has been quietly avoided for years. How should tradition adapt when the world has already changed? Can centuries-old rules continue to function exactly as they are?
We've had Harry on Spare talking about, how Meghan Markle, how complicated it was, how they went to the hospital, how Meghan Markle had to have 2 epidurals. We know all of that is BS. We know all of that is a lie.
Silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample or proof of delivery. If you had those things, it would be very easy just to put them out there and say, this is what happened. This is what it is.
Or will they eventually need to evolve? Right now, there are no clear answers, only questions that are getting louder, and a legal case that may end up doing something no media storm ever could.
At this point in time, King Charles doesn't understand that he cannot continue having Harry and Meghan on the British monarchy's website when they are absolutely trashing the very same institution and using titles for commercial purposes, which is basically repeating the same pattern that Sarah Ferguson has done and even Andrew did. That has to stop.
Forcing those questions into the open. Because in the end, this isn't just about one child, or one family, or even one inheritance. It's about the future of a system built on rules that were never meant to face the world we live in today, and whether that system can adapt before those questions become impossible to ignore.